Hello, this is Russ at RAP, and I'm very pleased today to be joined by Mr. Bob Berg, Senior International Sales Manager for MAGIC. Bob, thank you for your time today. First, can you tell us a little bit about what your role is at MAGIC?
Yeah, my role with MAGIC is that I work with a lot of the different countries to bring them into the show so that they can exhibit and to meet buyers. We're really an opportunity for factories from around the world to meet with buyers that are looking for production.
So you obviously travel the world quite a bit, and you have a first-hand view of the global garment industry. Kind of in your view, what is the role of social compliance programs in that industry?
There's really two important roles that they have. One is that if there's a moral obligation, or should be a moral obligation of companies, that they are working with factories that are treating their workers fairly, and that they're concerned about the workers' safety. So those are major issues, that they're compliant with all the laws, and that they're working in an environment that's really conducive for them. So that's one thing, is the moral obligation. The other obligation is that the companies that are producing the labels, they have to protect their labels. So the last thing that they want to do is to have bad publicity because all of a sudden they're in a factory that is busted for child labor, or is in a situation where the garment workers are actually hurt or killed. And it's a reflection on their brand that this is the company that they're working with. And so they need to protect their brand. So there's really those two issues.
Okay. So in your view, what is advantageous about RAP among all the social compliance programs?
Yeah, what's real important with RAP is that it's probably the most highly recognized social compliance certification program in the world. There are a lot of certifications. There is no just one certification program that's being recognized, but it is the most recognized name for the certifications. And just as an example, when I did do production, some of my customers that I was working for demanded that we use RAP certified factories. They never asked for anybody else, even though they may be just as compliant, but that's the one they knew. That's the one that's highly recognized.
So, as I'm sure you're aware, RAP is based on a management systems approach where we assess systems and processes that are in place in regards to safety and compliance. How important is that approach, that management systems approach, do you think?
Well, it's very important because, in essence, if you're certified, it really means that you're certified for that one day when they came in, or that week, or the process of a couple weeks. That's when they've done all the inspections. But what's important is that they're not just doing it so they can have a certificate on the wall. What's real important is that they have these certifications in place so that they really are protecting the workers' rights, that they are getting paid fairly, that they are being working in a safe environment. That's what's important. And the approach that they have with a management type of approach is that it's an ongoing process. So they want to make sure that it's not just something of a lip service, that they're just trying to get a certification for that particular moment to satisfy their customers, but that they're really committed to this kind of program.
In your view, how important is it for a brand or buyer to be engaged with their production facility?
Well, I think that the engagement that the companies have with their factories really is a lot more than just certifications. A lot of it is that they're going to have, if you have a good relationship, then they can help them with some of the design capabilities. They help them with some of the technical aspects. They may not know all the different grading systems, or they may not know everything about tech packs and so forth. And a lot of times companies will have like a graphic artist coming up with concepts that they want to do, and it doesn't always translate into something that can work easily in production. So when you have a relationship with your factory, then they can help you through some of that processes. Also, a relationship with the factory is important so that you feel comfortable that you're going to get shipped with the right quality and on time, that the factories is really working with you. So it has to be a two-way street, and that's a lot of it. Now, some of the big companies take it a lot further, even some of the smaller ones. and they want to make sure that they are certified. But they want to make sure that they're not doing some things like subcontracting, where the factory is certified, but because of price or because of the timing or whatever issues there is, they may be sending it off to another contractor, and they may not be certified. So that's what they have to be careful on. And they have to do due diligence more than just ask the factory. But when you have a good relationship with the factory, it does help somewhat to stem that, because it's not a practice that's allowed.
And I guess a compliance program like RAP could aid in that engagement.
It does, because you're not allowed to do subcontracting unless it's okayed by the customer. And if the customer wants a RAP certified factory, then why would they want it subcontract to a factory that's not RAP certified? And it's a common practice, unfortunately, so you have to be very careful.
So in your view, for maybe those outside of the industry who aren't familiar, are there any perceptions about compliance programs that the public maybe has or doesn't have that you think they should have?
Most people, when they think about a compliant program, they really think about child labor. And the child labor, of course, was a big issue and occasionally still is a big issue, but it really goes a lot further than that. What it does also is it's very, very important that the workers are getting paid fairly. So if they're working overtime, they should be paid for overtime. They shouldn't be, some factories used to make them work overtime, not record it, or, they just played games with them. And sometimes they didn't pay them, or they didn't pay them on time. So that's some of the issues. But really, what has really gotten a lot of importance lately is the worker safety while we're talking about that, So with that, like if they're wiring, you want to make sure they're not going to have fires. But if there is, God forbid, a fire, that they have exits to leave. And that in some places, they can't be compliant because they only have one entrance and exit into the cutting room or into the sewing room. So that if that's where the fire is, they have no way to exit. So part of the compliance is that they have to have another exit. They have to have the lights that go on if the electricity goes off. They have to have metal gloves on their hands if they're doing the cutting. They have to be trained for any kind of problems that come up medically. So they have to have training programs. So this is just part of it. They want to have lighting that makes it safe and good working conditions. So these conditions are important. It really, made the headlines a lot when they had the building collapse at Rama Plaza in Bangladesh. And that was just avoidable. So these are the things. There's also fires that happened and killed a number of workers. There's workers that are maimed in different areas. And sometimes it's much smaller scale, but it's the workers' safety that really is one of the more important things of compliance. And then, and it's good that a lot of the companies now are asking for compliant factories.
So how important is it for a compliance program to have that local knowledge, to have auditors and inspectors with that local experience?
Well, it's important. First of all, they have to know the different laws in the countries. You have to make sure that they are adhering to their own laws. And they may have laws that have contracts, like in China now. Every worker is supposed to have a contract. And if they don't have a contract, then it's illegal. So, that only came about some years ago, but now that's got to be part of the compliance. You want to make sure that the labor laws, whatever they are locally, are being fulfilled. And you also have to understand some of the culture too, but you still have certain standards that the Western countries have set up, and you have to make sure that there's a balance between the local laws and the Western laws. And if there's abuse that happens in a certain country that maybe is not illegal, though it should be, that's not an excuse. So you have to have it both ways. But you do have to know for sure the laws and the customs of that country.
And I guess that also means having auditors and inspectors that are fluent in those local laws and customs.
Yes, so the inspectors have to be not only knowledgeable in that, but they also have to be able to read and write and to talk, because they have to interview people to make sure that what's being told by management is really the same story that the workers are saying. They have to be able to go into the records themselves, to look at the timesheets, to see the payments, deposits, et cetera. So they have to be, to know the laws in order to check it, but they also have to be very fluent in that language, both reading and writing, and know what to look for. They have to be almost forensic accountants as well. More and more companies are more concerned with social compliance. In the past, there's a lot of companies that may say they were interested, but once they found out that the factories, maybe there's a little cost involved, they were less interested, and now they're finding that it's really more important. So it's really not only from a moral standpoint, but I think it's also, as we said before, to protect their brand. They know they cannot get caught in one of these type of situations where it's headlines around the world that this brand was in this factory and they found these issues. So it really is prudent, and it's it is money well spent, both for your moral reasons as well as for protecting your brand.
Right, and it's something you have to think of in a long-term sense, not just a short-term sense.
Yeah, there's definitely, this is a lot of value that RAP, gives to the factories, and actually, it's not the factories as much as it is the customers of the factories that really are the benefactor of this. And it's a very strong approach that they have, and what's important is that, being so highly recognized, then people know that, hey, this is a factory I want to do business with. And that's really the value that RAP represents in the business community, the apparel industry, and other industries.
Well, Bob, thank you very much for your time today.